Hello everyone, my name is Denise and today I'll be talking on the topic disqualifying the positives. So, for those of you who are very familiar with cognitive behavior therapy, disqualifying the positives is a form of cognitive distortion that happens when a person is very depressed or anxious. So something positive comes along and they say, nah, it's not real. Okay, so today I'm just going to go deeper into that, and I'm going to be citing from two books. One is this book, okay, by Dr. Steve Tyler. He was my professor in cognitive behavior therapy. And also this book, Ian McGilchrist, a psychiatrist and neurologist. This book is about the left and right hemisphere. But today I'm just going to draw a small passage to deal with this concept of disqualifying the positives. Okay, so it's hard to teach without a story, so I'm just going to give you a story. A story is like, it could be, okay, I have a client, this is fictitious by the way, got a client who says that, there are no men who are interested in me, but upon deeper probing, I realized that there are two men who are actively texting her, sending her a lot of gifts, and it looks almost as if they are very interested in her and they're pursuing her, but she disqualifies the positives. It's almost as if she cannot see it. She'll tell me all the evidence, but she cannot come to the conclusion that there are two men who find you attractive and they are so-called pursuing you, and it is not true that you are unattractive to all men. Okay, so this is a classic example of disqualifying the positives. So where does it come from, this disqualifying the positives? It comes from core beliefs, of which I think one of the most common ones, many people have it, is I'm not lovable. So if you are so convinced that you are not lovable and that is your opinion of yourself, that is a core belief of yourself, right? Your self-theory, that I am not lovable, then any evidence that proves that you are lovable, that you are attractive, you tend to discard it and disqualify it. Got it? So that's not very good, because then, for example, in the case of that client, they should not be open to the overtures of that person. They should start to become like almost blind to any pursuers, and that might so-called sabotage your own love life. Okay? So that's not so healthy, and it just keeps impounding her self-image that I'm not lovable, in spite of the fact that there is great evidence. She just cannot see it. She disqualifies the positive. So I think it would be healthy to first quote Ian McGilchrist, okay? This is Dr. Ian McGilchrist. Love him, although his book is super thick and written in very small words, very tightly packed, so it's really not easy to read. I just read two pages a day. That's much easier to go through. Okay, I'm going to read out from page 142. Dewey and James address the problem of how one can know truth in a world where things vary depending on context, and part of that context is the nature of the mind that does the knowing. The qualities never were in the organism. They always were qualities of interactions in which both extra-organic things and organisms partake. Okay, so this might be written in a more obtuse kind of language. So what I'm trying to tell you is that even the way we perceive the world, that it's very hard to distill an objective reality, because the way we perceive is very different from another person. It depends on what we are focusing on. So a lot of psychologists, professors, they tend to show you the video of the people like throwing the basketball, like the black and white team, and there's a gorilla standing in the middle. If you're too preoccupied counting the number of throws for the basketball, you just miss the gorilla 100%. So they're using that to illustrate that how you perceive the world, right, is really dependent on what you're focusing on. So that's one of that, dependent on what you're focusing on. It also depends on your current, for example, your own biological makeup. Some people are, let's say they have the green, red color blindness. Then whenever they see green and red, all they see are shades of brown. They cannot distinguish green and red. So that is really a change in their perception. Okay, so remember, if I can lead that back to just now I say disqualifying the positives. Our early childhood memories will give us core beliefs, and these core beliefs will shape the way we look at the world, so that the world is no longer the same world. The world Denise sees is very different from the world that you see, or different from the world that my mom and my dad, my son, my husband, they all see the world in a very different way from me, based on their own childhood memories. How's that? Okay, so in that same page, there's also another quotable quote which I'm going to read on page 142 again. According to the left hemisphere, understanding is built up from parts. One starts from one certainty, places another next to it, and advances as if building a wall from the bottom up. According to the latter vision, that of the right hemisphere, truth is only ever provisional, but that does not mean that one must give up the quest or hope of truth itself. Okay, this is a good quotable quote, because remember, like what I mentioned, let's say the early memories, maybe you've been neglected or abused when you're a child, then you have the core belief that I am not lovable. So that is a core belief that you have formed. So where is that core belief stored? I mean, broadly speaking, it could be stored in the left hemisphere, right? Like in this case, the left hemisphere's way of viewing the world is through its parts, through small parts and small rules, right? And its aim is to keep it consistent. I'm not going to want to rock my world view by changing the core beliefs. So they are going to be quite rock solid. So if one of the bricks that you're building the wall with is the brick that I am not lovable, then it's going to stay there like a solid piece of cornerstone for your wall of your self-image, and it's not going to want to budge. So that's a very left hemisphere way of looking at things, not contextual, but based on its own parts, right? On in this case, various core beliefs. Whereas the right hemisphere is very contextual. So okay, maybe it was true that you were neglected as a child, maybe between 5 to 10 years old, you didn't get much love, and at that time you felt unlovable. Maybe at that time you were also pretty angsty, and maybe objectively, if that is even possible, pretty unlovable at that point. But the truth is that things have changed. Like 20 years have passed, you're now in your 30s, and you have evolved so much. Why are you still holding on to that piece of brick that I'm not lovable? Is it still relevant in this context? So the right brain tends to want to challenge the left brain that is built up by all these building blocks. Understand? So that is actually what I think Dr. Ian McGilchrist is trying to say. That we have to, like, the fact that our self-concept, our self-theory is so, what's that word, unwavering, that is actually a very left-brain construct that is trying to understand the world, understand yourself based on parts. Like small little bricks, like I'm unlovable. Maybe that's I'm not lovable is one brick. Another brick is like I'm a person who's very involved in the arts. I'm a person who loves reading books, blah blah. So all these things actually causes a bit of rigidity, which is not that good, because people are different. Like for me, I love books, but I don't love books all the time. There's sometimes I just want to watch my trashy Korean drama, and I'm not ashamed of that. Okay, next up, let's just go on to this book. I'm going to see page 46. From Alfred Adler's point of view, people's current goals and behaviors determine what is remembered. Therefore, he considered that early childhood memories are central to the understanding of personality, as they are related to the psychological structure of a person. So what it's saying is that when you ask somebody to recall a memory, you could say that it is definitely not going to be 100% accurate okay, I rephrase that. They will choose selective parts of the memory to recall that is actually reflective of their current dilemmas or problems they're facing in their lives. So concomitantly, what this means is that if you manage to resolve those issues, then the memory that you draw out when people ask you, so how was your childhood like? Maybe between 0 to 6, it might change. The memories that you retrieve will change, or even if it's the same memory, aspects of the memory that you retrieve evolve based on your current problems. Okay, I think it's best concretized using a story. For example, right now I might be facing financial trouble. Then you ask me about my childhood. I might recall a childhood memory when my family was facing some kind of financial trouble, and I'll tell you the details of our deprivation, something like that, or how we made it through, or if it's a negative spin, how we languished under that, right? Okay, however, if let's say my financial trouble is solved, then now you ask me, what is the most significant memory of your childhood? If you just randomly recall, I might now tell you, oh, I was neglected as a child. So maybe right now I'm having emotional deprivation. So what this points to, if Alfred Adler was right, is that asking people for their early childhood memories is actually a very great way to reflect what's actually happening in the present, some issues that they may not be consciously aware of. Okay, so it is like almost like a diagnostic projective testing. Pretty awesome. So yeah, reading that book was also quite mind-blowing. So okay, to just gel it all back to the original topic, which is disqualifying the positives. I think disqualifying the positives. If there's any takeaway that I really want you to take away, is that somehow along the way, if we develop the self-theory, the self-concept that we are like, I'm unlovable, and then we start to disqualify all the evidence that people actually do love us, the question I want to ask you is that helpful to you? Is that causing more help or harm to you? Moving forward, do you want to actually open your eyes to all these experiences and actually consider like shifting out that core belief, that brick that I'm unlovable, and just like moving it away and making space for just a freedom to experience love and to see the world in a new light? Is it okay to change yourself from a person who is open to love, okay, from a person who is closed up to love, to now a person who can be open to it, who can see it when it is right in front of you? So for some people, the problem is really the environment. People don't love them. For some people, it's just that they don't have the right lenses to spot it when it's right in front of them. Or like for some people with mistrust and abuse, it is not a matter of making people give them enough reassurance. It's about a person changing them into a person who can trust again. And for that, they need to move away some of their core beliefs, which are like I told you, the left brain, right, who likes to build the world concept based on parts instead of looking at the whole. Instead of looking at the parts, I mean, like focusing on all the evidence, which is that people are not trustworthy, we need to open our eyes so that we can see the world clearer for what it is, and be more reality based, and more than that, to see the world in a way that can actually benefit us in the long run, that is beneficial to us. Okay, so I guess this video can be quite obtuse and a bit confusing. If you have any questions, just leave it in the comment section below. I can make a follow-up video. Okay, I hope this video has been helpful to you. If it has been, kindly press like, share and subscribe. Thank you so much, and God bless.